I think the majority of people are here. I'm sure some will trickle in as we go, but I think it's safe to get started. Sure.
Awesome. So I'm just going to do a little intro here. Welcome to the first ever Toledo Creatives Workshop. We're super excited. Let's get a little round of applause for the first ever, Toledo Creatives Workshop here. It's super exciting. What an awesome turnout. Um, James is the man, Dirty Kicks on Instagram. He's going to teach us tonight about street photojournalism, specifically with film. And he's an awesome dude. He's taken a really good pick. That's a sweet album cover for me and my dog that's dropping sometime Q3 of 2021. So look out for that fire. But with that being said, James, the floor is yours, my man.
All right. Um, what's up, everyone? Just as Evan said, I'm James, man. I'm a local street photographer, but I have gone to other places. And tonight I'm just going to discuss some of the finer points of that. I am from Toledo, Ohio. I have no formal training in photography. For most of the people that are here, some of you know that, some of you don't. A lot of my experience with photography is just going out there and doing it and making mistakes and learning from there. So I shoot specifically with a Rolleiflex, which is in terrible condition. So it just, on one side, that's like the coolest like war wound is that your camera is beat up, you've been using it, you've been doing everything, it's got history. And then on the other side, it's like, man, your camera's falling apart. Maybe you should upgrade. So don't laugh at my rubber bands. My rubber bands have a very strong practical use. They're holding like the back of this camera together. Because if the back of this camera opens up, it exposes all of my film. And I could send it out for repair, but I really don't want to do that because if I send it out for repair, I may not have it for like 3 to 4 months. And that would hurt. But as I mentioned before, again, I am fully film dedicated with the exception of my cell phone for some things. I got into photography. I've been going pretty strong for like the last 5 or 6 years, but I got into it a lot earlier than that. I've always been around photography. My father did it, as a hobby. Even though I didn't really realize how strong like a love he had for photography until, just, a couple of years ago. But like my family's always been involved in some degree of art, whether it's writing, whether it's, drawing, or photography. Like there was always some attachment, music. And we've always had like one of those relationships where, it just never, like that fire for art has never really died. It just gets passed on to the next generation. So, what my father had got passed on to me. And I'm trying to make use of that as best as possible. But, for the first 5 years or last 5 years or so, I've been going really hard and, trying to develop myself as a serious photographer. I do have a full-time job. I am not living off photography. I would really love and enjoy the satisfaction of waking up and just hitting the streets and doing my thing. But, I have to enjoy waking up and going to work for the library, which isn't a bad job by any means, but like it's a better experience on the street, talking to people in a manner that I don't have to like look over my shoulder and worry about someone worrying about our conversation. So, well, my focus here in Toledo over the last few years of discipline has really been on the Black and Brown communities and representation there. And one of the things that I, noticed in my research, because at first, with the whole concept of street photography for me, like it was just kind of just going outside and just catching whatever. But I had to really like narrow down that focus because, even though Toledo has a population over 200,000, it's sparse, it's spread out. So you don't have the same joy, luxury you would have in a bigger city, a Columbus, a, you know, NYC, a just any major metropolitan area that has, you know, 500,000 or more. Like we don't have that luxury. So every like start of the year, I like review my work, and I look at it and ask myself like some really solid questions. You know, what do I want to do this year? How do I want to improve? And that is kind of the basis for how I enter into a new year. Instead of like, you know, shitting on myself about what I didn't do the previous year, I say just how can I enhance myself this year? So one of the things in my own personal explorations went into some of the history and the visibility of even today with Black and Brown communities. I was just noticing in Toledo that, you know, things happen, but they were so contained that you just didn't know that they were happening. So I thought about how can I best represent those things in my own way, and that was with going to events, going to, you know, neighborhoods, just walking around and talking to people, and making sure like before I left someone's block, you know, if you were a minority, I spoke, you know, I did something, because a lot of my drive is the preservation of someone, even though they may not ever see the photograph. Like I just want to preserve them in the state that they're in, whether it's happy or sad. I just want the evidence. Someone to contribute to the evidence of their existence. So that's like number one is doing that, because I think about like, well, what happened if, you know, folks forgot about me, or what would happen if someone forgot about them, and that has like a big effect on me. So when I would journey into these neighborhoods, it was, you know, me just walking, you know, miles and miles and finding someone to talk to. And that's been rewarding. You know, it's been insanely rewarding. You know, again, I don't make money from photography. I am like supported in so many ways by like the Arts Commission. You know, this past year, you know, Matt from the Metro Parks helped me out with some things, which I'm super grateful for. Because all of that stuff, any money that I receive, it just goes right into supplies. Like there's no, you know, I'm balling out of control. There's, you know, this is enough to buy some film. And if anyone ever drops like a dollar amount in front of me for something, I don't think about like kicking it with that money. I think about supplies. That's how dedicated I am. So while you're talking to me about the cost of something, I'm like, 10 rolls of film, 20 rolls of film, you know, 30 rolls of film. You know, I don't even know what the details are, what you're saying. I'm just like, film. No diss, but it's just how it is. So and I probably should touch on this now. With film, it's dope to use film. It's one of those things that come with a ton of discipline. Is not anything that's new. You know, obviously film photography was one of the bases for photography. You know, we needed something, things happen, that's where we were at. It existed for far longer than digital has. But it doesn't necessarily like make you, you know, Mr. Fantastic with photography. Your effort, your willingness to ask yourself tough questions, your desire to learn, your desire to fail, all those things make you dope. But what I do with this camera is nuts in a way, because, you know, some people are using digital cameras, and I, you know, just to tap on or touch on this a little bit, you know, I did go to Lansing, Michigan. I did go to Washington, D.C. when everyone was like, you know, you shouldn't go there because, you know, the militias are threatening journalists and threatening everyone. You shouldn't go there. So for me to go there was one thing. For me to go there with a camera that has no zoom lens, that I have to physically, I am the zoom for my camera, was it was nuts, you know, but I'm comfortable with this. This does it for me. I don't have to think about, you know, so many settings and if my meter is legit or if it's this or if it's that. I don't have to think about the things that digital camera users do. I'm not thinking about whether or not my lens is correct for what I want to shoot, whether it's zoom or it's a prime lens or any of that mess. It's cool that you have that stuff, but like when I'm out there, my body is my zoom, my willingness to get the photograph is, my brand, like that's just what it is. And that does come with risk in situations like that. But the way that I see everything now, after all I've accomplished over these like last 5-ish years, is the risk is all the same. I'm walking into places I've never been in, and I'm a stranger with a camera. So if I was going to get robbed, if I was going to get jumped, shot, whatever, it would happen in these neighborhoods I go into because people still protect their neighborhoods and they have every right to. What is this dude doing over here? Why does he have his camera? What is he trying to do? So if someone comes at me, it's not going to matter if I have a digital camera, if I have this film camera, they're going to come at me because I have a camera. And I have been like approached before. Luckily, it's never been like on a physical level, but I have been chased now, not like in a crazy way, but like, someone came storming out of a store. 2 people actually came storming out of a store. What are you doing over here? Are you with the press? Are you this? Are you that? And that was 2 separate occasions. And, I diffuse every situation I've ever been in, but I've had a situation where, mental health is an issue. Somebody was homeless. They saw my camera. They didn't see my camera pointed at them, but they saw my camera and they responded to it because somebody, for me, probably came with their camera who didn't know any better about, street etiquette and got in this homeless person's face and hurt their feelings. So now their response is going to be, that's something I don't like. So that was in Chicago. In New York, I had a woman, scream at the top of her lungs about me taking a photograph of her. And it happens. We're on the street. You can live by the law. I mean, I don't always ask, and I'll touch on that a little later too. But she got pissed. What was I supposed to do? There was something about her. I took the photograph. Sometimes you got to take them when you see it. And I did, and that's what happened. I still got my picture, but also got, something added to the memory. And I'm never out to like violate people. It's just, if something happened to her, it happened to her, and I apologize and I keep it moving. She did try to tell me like it's against the law to take that picture, and I'm like, no, it's not. It's probably the only time I ever laughed and like used the law to protect myself. But that's just the nature of it. So, I always get asked about photography and like what got me into it. It was just my whole thing with photography was, again, I always kind of dabbled in it. But like what took me to the street was like having to like get back in touch with adults, with people who live. Like, I'm a father of 2, and I just had to, because that relationship fell apart, I had to find some other outlet, some other connection, because it wasn't work, which was a really weird space that I existed in. And, my energy is different. And like I have to repair things on my own. And photography allowed me to repair those things because I was able to sit there and chill with people who, may have had the same experiences, who may just, needed an ear. I just like was able to just go and chill without like developing any vices, which I was thankful for. Because in some situations I might smoke weed with someone, I might share a beer with them while I'm hanging out with them. I never make people feel like shit. And part of my language for anyone that might be underage or listening, man, I'm sorry. I promise that it won't get too aggressive, but like, sometimes I will say shit. It was my dad's favorite curse word. I can't help it. So you know, when I'm out there, I'm out there with people, man. Everybody's equal. And again, like you meet some people on the street, they just want to talk, just want to have something. So I mean, that was, you know, long story short, kind of my background with photography. I have won awards with the Arts Commission. I have been published just this summer in Harper's Bazaar, this online article about protests that have been happening, you know, since George Floyd's death, which was super dope, but that's not my first time being published. I actually was published in like this, like I think it was an iPhone magazine or something like 7 or 8 years ago. You know, I won this competition for this picture I took. And it wasn't like street photography or anything. It was just me, like, I think that was me like experimenting again with my love of photography, and it was my first time getting published. And I always forget about that picture. But you know, that's just what it is. So like sorry, I blanked out there briefly. Just thinking about things. This opportunity here has allowed me to like kind of reflect on all that I've achieved over the last couple of years. So I'm thankful for, you know, the Toledo Creators Group reaching out and asking me to do this. I do want to touch on street etiquette, at least to start things off really quick for anyone that does have that curiosity with street photography. And I want to go through some of my photographs. At the same time, probably not gonna go through all 65 of them. I'm probably just gonna scroll through them. But really quick, for anyone that is interested in street photography, the first thing I will tell you is pack light. This camera here, I usually go out on the street and I may have 6 rolls of film, this and a bottle of water and a power bar, and that's it. I don't need extra lenses. I don't need mace. I don't need like a lot of different things. My focus is always on the people. I trust people well enough to feel like, you know, my life won't be in danger while I'm out here. I'm honest about the work that I do. And a lot of people, they, you know, sometimes they aren't. Sometimes they're mischievous. Sometimes they're malicious. Sometimes they're just not the right person to be taking a picture in a certain area. But I've been like thankful that nothing serious has ever happened to me. But a lot of that at the same time is because I dress down, you know, most of the time it's just a t-shirt and some shorts or a hoodie and some jeans and this camera. I think this may diffuse some things because it's so old and people feel like they can't do anything with it. But at the same time, for the people I can get a picture back to locally, they're impressed with the work, and that makes me happy. Street photography is one of those things that's very broad. Some people love the term street photography, some people hate it. The work just varies. Right behind me, there's a number of street photography books that if I set those down and I showed you all of them, they all will have a different look and feel because street photography is so broad. You can focus on happenstance. You can focus on making portraits of people. You can focus on the fashion side, like Bill Cunningham. Bill Cunningham wasn't solely a fashion photographer. He was a street photographer first, fashion photography second. It's just his focus was fashion photography, but he did his thing on the street. He didn't stop anybody. He just did what he could. And that is like, in the fashion world, he's a legend, you know, God rest his soul. But at the same time, you have a Bruce Gilden who's notorious for jumping in front of people and, you know, flashing his camera, taking a picture, not asking, you know, sometimes being attacked, but coming up with work that's so technically good that you cannot hate what he does. And then you have people that focus on, you know, architecture. You know, they're historians in some way. Everyone's a historian, I think, with the camera, but when it comes to street photography, you are like documenting time in a different way that other people are not. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's one of the more difficult focuses when it comes to having a camera. I feel like wedding photography and street photography are two beasts, because you're dealing with people's emotions. Documentary photographers specifically, from conversations I've had, they go in and they establish rapport, and they build a friendship that's needed for them to get the content that they need. Street photography, a lot of times you can't. I have people that I see on the street multiple times, and I've documented certain parts of their life, but I wouldn't classify that like specifically as documentary work. It would be different if I was able to record, you know, their the different stages of their life with more information attached. But I'm just happy those people are still alive, because some of them are in bad positions. So I could go deeper, but I don't want them to ever feel like, you know, their worth is just for my camera, and it's not. So street photography is it's different. I mean, there's been an explosion, especially with Instagram. You know, everyone wants to learn, everyone wants to absorb it. It's not just something you touch on in college. And I think it's fantastic, you know, that people are using their cameras more. I think there was an insane benefit to it this year, especially with all the protests going on around the US, and overseas. You know, there's other battles being fought. So cameras have done something, and they do like get edged closer and closer to street photography in a way, because it's not about the fight. You know, sometimes people fight with signs in their windows, and we're seeing that, you know, not everybody's happy about a regime or, you know, a president. We're seeing things, and those things are being recorded and shared. So the like-mindedness is there, and I think it's beautiful to discover that. But at the same time, again, you just got to know what you do when you're going in these places, into these neighborhoods. There's always like a level of respect. I've never gone into a neighborhood thinking that, you know, I was a shit. I've just gone into places like with respect. And again, I don't always ask for a picture. In Toledo, I tend to do that more because there's a higher chance of me seeing people. You know, I do work for a library, and I'm dealing with the public there. I'm dealing with the public, you know, out here on the street. So I don't like to take a gamble with making someone mad and then having that, you know, come back on me at work, because I don't want to jeopardize, you know, my job or the safety of my coworkers because of a picture. So I tend to ask a little bit more locally. But even with me asking, and the beauty of this camera, I could take like candid pictures. And, you know, the reason behind that briefly is because this has a leaf shutter, and the leaf shutters are terribly quiet when you're on the street. SLRs, for the most part, have mirrors that flap. Everyone's used to hearing a shutter. Even with the disposable camera, you're used to hearing something clap. But with these, it's small, it's light. Your road noise takes care of it. So you can be as candid as possible with a camera like this. That's the other reason why I take this thing everywhere. I could take it in the grocery stores. I could take it, you know, anywhere. And people aren't wise to me photographing them. I love it. It's the shit. But you know, when I go into these neighborhoods, it's still with respect. I know things can go left in an instant. And you know, I am trying to make it home safe at the end of the day. So, you know, for anyone that has that curiosity, just know that while you're out there with the camera, if you encounter someone and you don't necessarily like what they represent or what they're saying, hold your tongue, because you will jeopardize yourself. You're not out there. You got to think you're not out there to make people mad. You're out there to learn their story. So be a listener before you be a responder. Because that's when the trouble starts. You get out there and you start telling people what to believe and what to do. There's conflict. I had some guys, and you'll see a photograph of a few of them when I switch, but they didn't understand why protests were occurring throughout the US after George Floyd was murdered. They just felt like the protests should stay where they're at in Minnesota. And it was just like, are you guys brand new? But the crazy part about that conversation was, one of the guys present just kept talking to me about hip hop stuff. And these are, three white guys. And they're just like, the protests need to stay here, here, and here. But then I got this one guy just sitting here talking up a storm about hip hop music in the South. And I'm just like, okay, this is different. You guys are telling me you don't understand this stuff, but you're listening and name dropping rappers who rap about police brutality and all these things. So you're hearing real stories come from the music you're listening to, but you're in denial about real life. So you could tell it was just entertainment for them and they weren't really listening. They wanted the association, but they didn't want the dirt. They didn't want the pain. They didn't want to fight for anything else. So they just wrote it off as people, reacting for nothing. And one of the things they didn't know was that I myself am a victim of police brutality. If you check my Instagram post, I wrote about it. I get super emotional when I talk about it, so I probably won't say too much, but years ago, going out, was only outside for maybe a half an hour at night at a nightclub. And things went sour. Myself, my twin brother, my girl at the time, some friends and family, we all waited for the crowd to thin out before we left. Went to our cars. Police saw a group of, Blacks and Latinos, and that became a thing. So what ended up happening was that, I got tasered 4 times, had my arm broken, and had a heart attack. I was 23 years old. And, the brutal part of that whole experience was sitting there, handcuffed to a stretcher with police still talking reckless to me, just trying to get me to respond so that they could, take me and arrest me, because they had to take me to the hospital because my twin brother is screaming at the top of his lung that I have a heart condition. I have small heart valves. And, thankfully, he was able to convince them to take me to the hospital, because prior to that, Black people have been dying in jail from being tasered. So if I would have went straight to jail, I would have been one of those people, because I had a heart attack shortly after, securing a lawyer and them uncuffing me and leaving, I had a heart attack. So the craziest part about that is whenever this fight broke out at this club, like, my ex was the person that called the police. So the slap in the face happened with that. But, those people don't know that. People don't know that. They don't see my scar. But they sit there and they say, people should just listen to the law. They should do this, they should do that. But they don't know the reaction when you Black or Mexican or whatever. It's much more intense. Toledo police sucked at the end of the day when it came to, crowd dispersal. There was no, asking people to leave. It was get the F out of here. Things weren't cool, man. I had some bad experiences in Toledo. So like for years, especially after that, and I was someone that waited till I was 21 to take my first drink. Like I wasn't, bugging out, when I was younger. I did things like according to law. And, so it was crazy, but these folks don't know that. And I could easily get pissed while talking to them and say, yo, you're not right. This is what happened to me. And I have touched on that with some people before, but those are people who had a similar experience. So I could sit there and talk to them on the street about it. And that was something that was helpful, because they also felt like no one believed them, or people would say it was probably your fault. Like what happened to me, I got hit with they're just doing their job, and they're not. They didn't hear us when we said we called you. All they wanted to do was be vicious. So, the George Floyd situation, all these previous situations, they hurt to see. It's personal. So I hadn't had much of a nightlife after that incident. I was just like, it's a wrap. I don't feel comfortable. I'm 6'3", pushing 6'4". I'm easily the person to target if you want to take somebody down, or if police pull up, they're going to get the bigger guys, because the bigger guys can cause the most destruction. So I can't avoid the trouble. So, people don't know that. So when I encounter them on the street and they obviously don't know my story, I don't know theirs, I listen to them, I swallow it, I say like maybe one or two things, but nothing like extreme, just to get a little bit more out of them, to maybe encourage them to listen to what they're saying. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, but you just got to be prepared to hear some stuff that you may not like while you're on the street, because you're the one that's going up to people. They're not coming up to you. So you got to be brave. Again, I go into different neighborhoods. Anything can happen, you know? So, I mean, street photography isn't, again, it's not like a cookie cutter process. You have to be prepared for people to get mad. You have to be prepared to go the distance in a place like Toledo, or even in New York, because New York has 1 million photographers, where Toledo, may have 1,000. You just have to be prepared to work that much harder for what you want, and stop thinking about about how everyone else, shoots or accomplishes whatever. You got to get that out of your head, and you just got to do you, and let yourself develop from there. So, I mean, I want to show you guys some of these photographs. Oh no, only the host can share in this meeting. Is there any way, guys, that I can get?
Yeah.
All right.
Jake got it.
All right, let me see if this works. Oh no, not yet. Well, I'm gonna give that a few seconds. I do want to talk to you guys about instant gratification and how you need to bypass that. We live in an age of the internet. Like I said, a lot of people, they blew up overnight, either covering protests or something else. We all see the same things, and we all say we can do that, or we feel like we got a photograph that's equally powerful, composed, whatever. We have something that we feel like matches what they did. We don't know how hard that person worked. They don't know how hard you work, but everyone falls victim to instant gratification in terms of the social media. I do want to say that very early when I was starting with street photography, I was a victim of it. You just think you do something and it should be loved by the world, and that's just not it. I want to tell people that are interested in street photography that you have to learn to look past that. That shit is dangerous. What happens with street photography is, as long as you go out there and you continue doing it, the content you want will come out of your effort. I mean, it's just like with anything, but the street photography specifically, if you're only going out once a week, you're not doing yourself any justice. I go out every other day. Whenever I don't have my children, I'm out on the street. I mean, right now it's cold in Toledo, so I'm not doing too much. But from April to October, it's when I usually go crazy. And I'm out there every other day. It don't matter if I get a shot. I'm just out there. It might be crazy hot. I might have, forgot to bring an extra roll of film or whatever could have went wrong. If I'm gonna put in 7 miles of walking in Toledo, I'm gonna put in 7 miles of walking in Toledo every other day, not just for the week. I record stuff while driving. I take pictures while driving too. It's just one of those things. Again, if you really want to see the city in a different light or whatever, wherever you at, your own backyard, you got to be serious, and you can't expect your work to match what you see on the internet. I mean, instant gratification is just, again, that's a broad term. I mean, it could come from you just looking at your camera to see if you got the shot. I will say, when I did shoot with the digital camera, my discipline was that I only took 1 or 2 photographs of someone on the street, and I didn't immediately look to see if I nailed it. I trust what I saw through my viewfinder. And I said, all right, I got the shot that I wanted. I didn't bother to look. I didn't do anything until I got home, and then I reviewed my work. It takes serious discipline when you can just look at your viewfinder. But I saw that I'm host, so I will try sharing some things. All right. I don't know if that's working. Can anyone chime in and let me know if this is working? Can you see the pictures? You guys can see it. All right, hold on. Let me go back to the photographs then. All right, so I'm just gonna scroll through some just to show you, and hopefully that Zoom works. Really quick, let me go back to this first picture and say, I have no idea what these kids' names are. I was walking down the street and a kid with the N1 jacket, he saw my camera and his charisma just came out, man. Actually, I love that kid and I hope he's doing well because all he asked me for was picture after picture after picture, and I let him take pictures of his folks. He was just like over the moon with my camera. And I love when that happens with children because like they'll remember this moment. I got him and his friend to take pictures. And it was just so cool and so chill. And that was just again me being out there, being dedicated to what I consider a job, a passion really. But even with this one that says, be the reason someone smiles today. Again, for me with street photography, you have to always be ready. You have to constantly look around. One of my bad traits when I'm out with people is that it's very easy for me to stop paying attention to the group of people I'm with and I start looking at everything else. I apologize all the time. I run out in the middle of conversations. I'm sorry forever. But you know, this was a photograph that a lot of people enjoyed in Chicago. This was actually super candid. I shot it from the hip. I took a guess. I don't use a light meter, and I use a technique called zone focusing. With zone focusing, you're setting your camera to a certain distance, and you are taking a chance to shoot blindly. This was probably 1/30th, 1/60th of a second. So I was already in shaky territory. But I took it and I love the picture. It's not like spot on, but it's there. The emotion's there. Their, you know, interaction is, I feel, perfectly captured. It's one of my favorite pictures. Again, man, you just have to be looking and willing to take a picture. This one, it kept my interest only on the strength of this is life on public transportation. You know, people are going to go to sleep. People are going to fight the sun, but like they're going to exist together while they're on a certain route. It's just one of those pictures that I've always found a little bit of humor in. And again, I got 65 pictures here. I'm not going to go over every single one, but I'm gonna just scroll through and just say, like, you always have to have like your camera ready for something. If anyone has ever seen me out on the street, I have my camera in my right hand. It's always held up at a right angle, ready to go. I never put my camera like on my hip. I never like sling it across my neck. It's always in my hand. It's always ready to take a shot. Because again, you have a situation like this with this woman who's balancing food, going through her phone, and I didn't ask her for this picture, but I was ready to take it. So I saw her, my camera was set to probably 10 to 12 feet. It was shot at F8 or F11, one of the two. And I just took the shot. I gambled, and this is what I came up with. This was at the African American Festival. And one of the cooler things with this picture is like, again, I didn't gather a bunch of kids together. You got to learn how to read a crowd for one, and you also have to understand that energy, how that energy works. And I just, you know, yelled at the kids, you know, let's take a picture, and then it just kind of came together. Again, just another photograph. I'm gonna scroll through some of these. This one, I hope the Zoom works because I am like pinching the screen and zooming in, but this guy got stabbed. So it's an interesting story about this guy. We were at Wendy's. I was going in there for a smoothie because it was, crazy hot out. I had just got done walking downtown, and he asked me if I could pick up something for him. And I was like, yeah, I got you, man. Come on in. I'll order you something, whatever you want. And he just got to talking to me about my camera and some stuff. And then, I just asked him how he was doing. He was like, I just got out here. And I was in the hospital the other day. Some kids, wanted me to sell some drugs for him or deliver some drugs for him. I told him no, and they stabbed me. So he was in a hospital, right underneath his arm with a stab wound. And I don't recall if those guys were caught or anything like that, but you just never know what people's story is. And I could have told him that, I didn't have any money or this, that, and the third. I only carry like $5 or $10 on me when I'm on the street. So I literally just had enough for a smoothie and, something for him to drink that day. But there's still the conversation. People still want the conversation. Otherwise, no one would approach anyone. So like you always, even if, though I was tired, I just got done walking from all the way downtown to where this Wendy's is located on my way back home, I still like kept myself focused on the people. I had no intention on taking this dude's picture until after he told me that story. And I'm like, yo, I got to document that. A little festival shot. Some of these I have on Instagram, but I'm just showing them just because, there's always a story. This picture actually was taken, I think Ohio closed down March 13th or something around that for COVID. Maybe it was the 15th. This picture was taken the day it was announced that, everything was going to shut down besides like grocery stores. Like this was literally, on a walk. I was with a friend, Sid, and, no one was thinking about COVID like we're thinking about COVID now, but I just happened to catch these guys coming out. You guys can't see them, but there was kids behind him. So it's kind of crazy to see that because that was like, the last photograph before the mask, Again, you just always have to be ready for something. And this was blindly shot. I'm not saying this is a great photograph, but for me, like it's one of those pictures that I look at as a form of discipline. How else would I have made that picture? What was my camera set at? And I only hover between a couple settings. I kind of, if I'm anal about anything, it's about what I did with my camera versus what camera I'm shooting with. Is what did I do with this camera? And I consider that all the time. Again, this was another one from the hip. This guy, it was probably 92 degrees out. Neither one of us should have been walking or outside because he's pouring sweat. I promise you, my shirt was probably as wet as his face. It was so hot out that day. But again, we both had to get somewhere. Again, just one of those moments where you just got to be ready for anything. You should just have that at a show. Again, a candid photograph. I actually shot this holding my Rolleiflex. I balanced my Rolleiflex on my knee and took this picture. So I did not compose this picture looking through the viewfinder. I zone focus. I don't even know what my camera settings were at, but I got the picture and I just was like, cool, that's dope. Again, those pleasant surprises. Let me see if I can back out. This was always an interesting one to tell people about. I don't know if you guys can read that, but it says, payback is a bitch, revenge is a mother effer. This is an interesting photograph to discuss because we were on a train. Obviously I did not ask this guy for this picture. I stood next to him. He had his headphones on. I read the scene. I was like, I'm going for this picture. And I held my camera as close to my body as humanly possible. And I used zone focus. I put some random setting in, for aperture and speed. And I took like 6 pictures until I got the one that I wanted. Now I didn't know that I got the one that I thought was cool until I got home. But one of the funnier parts about me doing this is while I'm so focused on taking this guy's picture, there's a woman standing behind me, like having the time of her life, because she like, I've always wanted to see people do street photography. And the moment this guy got off the train, she could not like help herself but say, that was so cool. I saw you doing this, blah, 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 blah. And she like talked my ear off for like 2 stops, which was dope. But if you look at his neck, it says Apache Outlaw. So I feel like with this particular tattoo, there was something that he did to earn that. I don't think anyone delivers a message like this purposely. That just doesn't make sense as a tattoo that I would go out and say, yo, I need you to put this on my face, bro. This was something that he probably did that ensured that he could exit the gang safely without any more repercussion. Or he still could be a member of the Apache Outlaws. They're a motorcycle gang. But he messed up and this is what happened to him. Those are, the questions that we have. But let me back out. So I was talking about the gentleman earlier, the white guys that were asking me about why people were protesting, for George Floyd in other areas. And this was one of the gentlemen that, could not help but, talk to me about hip hop. And again, it's like, dude, you love hip hop. You've heard these stories. The people you're talking to me about, I know for a fact they've been on the wrong end of the law, but you don't understand like anything else. Like, you don't understand a single thing, or why people want to protest or why things are the way they are. But I mean, he was just, on his tip about being cool. And this guy right here didn't say too much else, but I was with those guys for maybe, a half hour, 45 minutes, just chilling, man. We, this was, COVID was going on. So I've done some things that people wouldn't appreciate. At a certain point, man, I'm sitting on this dude's porch, we splitting a drink, just talking. If people, would lose their minds as they found out like the next day I was around other cats. I was reckless, but at the same time, I'm not on the street to discipline people. There's people that are already out there to do that. So I just kind of do what I need to do to get the work that I want, the work that I appreciate. And I always tell folks like, yo, I'm sorry, I do. I'm 9 times out of 10, I am safe. But for those moments where I break my own personal rules, it's for a reason. So some of these I don't remember why I included them. But just to say about focus, just really quick to tap in on that. I do make a conscious effort to photograph Black men with their kids because one of my things is I want to destroy the stereotype of Black men not being in their kids' lives. That's just such BS. So whenever I see an opportunity to photograph a Black family, I do it. I'm very much involved in my own kids' life. All my folks, they are too. Even if they're not with the mother, they're still solid dads. So it's like, I can count, 100 people that can easily break that rumor, that stereotype, but it still exists. So while it still exists, this is what I will do. This is kind of an odd picture. And again, I like to tell people to be ready for whatever. There was a shooting, and this is right around the corner from me on Monroe and Upton. I had just like dozed off and I hear the gunfire. First thing I do is grab my coat and my camera and I run out there to get a picture. And again, like you just have to be a certain type of person, nosy maybe, or just wanting to, you know, live like a well-paid photojournalist. You just kind of jump, and more when I encounter situations like this, I feel like more and more attached to what other people experience when they go into, you know, not necessarily war zones, because I haven't had that experience, but when they go into dangerous situations with their cameras, because they know they need to record something, they need to do something and contribute to society in a way that they need. So, you know, at 10:30, 11 at night, you know, I just fall asleep, heard gunfire, hurried up, put on clothes, ran around the corner. A guy did get shot, but that's just kind of what happened. He lived. And again, I feel like I made this photograph right after, like the day after this. But again, I walk, and this guy was playing music so loud, sitting in an alleyway having a drink, and I just went and hung out with him, probably for a solid hour. Again, it's hot out, it's stupid hot out, but some people are just looking for conversation. And through that conversation, he showed me his man cave, which is in his garage. And what you guys don't see in this photograph, like you see, like there's DVDs, there's stuff pinned on the wall. He had a massive record collection. He had a massive classic car collection, like die-cast cars. There was just so much, and I'm like super grateful for that experience, because you know, you learn about people, you learn what a collector is like. You know, you don't feel alone in this pursuit to have things. It's just one of those things that was very chill. And I haven't seen him back out, because I kind of go through his neighborhood every so often, but you know, I would love to talk to him again. Again, that was just on one of those walks. And this one was May 30th. Again, one of the protests for Black Lives Matter, for George Floyd. This was an emotional day. And I do like to tell people not to really like carry their emotions when they go out with the camera, because it can be it could backfire on you if you're not really prepared. But I had a struggle, just like I shared that story about police, my own experience with police brutality. It was a struggle for me to use my camera this day, because I saw the aggressions of police officers. I saw, you know, the pain of the protesters. I saw some antagonists out there. And like, I have a habit of like disregarding my own safety, obviously, but I wanted revenge. So it was a struggle, because I did want to fight. I did want to, you know, take pictures, but I really just wanted to fight a cop, because I can't fight a cop. I can't fight the people that put me in the hospital. I can't put my hands on. They're untouchable. That would just be me jeopardizing my own freedom. So I have to live not only with the scar, but the desire for revenge that I cannot take in any way, shape, or form. And it's messed up, you know, because it was undeserving. But, you know, it is what it is. You know, I love this picture just based on the open carry. I'm not a gun person, but I do support people that do exercise their rights, because things are one-dimensional right now. Let me see what else I could show you guys. Oh, we're running short on time. Bear with me. All right. Well, yeah, I guess you know, I was supposed to talk for an hour, and it's about that time. Should I just pause? Like, what do you guys want to do? Want me to keep talking about some things? Let me get back to this, because I can keep talking. Okay. All right. All right, let me go ahead and I'll get back to sharing those photographs. Hold on. Oh, it kicked me out of host. Can you guys put me back in host mode?
I got you.
All right. Everyone's learning about Zoom today. I know I am. Well, while I wait for that, I had like my little notes and whatnot. I did want to talk briefly about books. Everyone knows, and even on my Instagram Live, I've been doing these book talks. I support not only the experience of seeing photography in person, but the purchases of books. And I'm not saying you got to go out and buy $100 monograph. You can focus on some very cheap alternatives. Really briefly, and I'm glad this is being recorded, so I don't have to like link a bunch of stuff. But like, you can hop on Amazon and you can pick up, a street photography book by Joel. I know the words are backwards. I apologize for that. But Joel Meyerowitz, who is probably like one of the godfathers besides like Robert Frank. He pioneered like one of the pioneers of color photography. But Robert Frank is probably, is the godfather of street photography, especially with the Americans. But Joel Meyerowitz, this is an excellent read. He just discusses techniques that have helped him in his career. And then I'll go back to some more of my photographs just briefly, but just to show you what preparedness is like. I mean, some of you might have seen this picture before. Again, just preparedness. You just have to be, you see a girl crying through the window. This book was like $13 or $14. Not a huge investment. We all spend that on coffee, donuts, wings. We spend it on a bunch of random stuff, man. Plants. I'm a plant fanatic. I spent way too much this week on plants. But I could have bought books the same amount of money. You gotta start investing in other things besides Instagram. 8:15 and then start the Q&A. All right, for sure. One of my favorite reads, and this is what made photographers that I admire more human. This book here, and I always tell people about it because I think it's the best $13 I've ever spent. It's called Photographs Not Taken. And what it does is there's interviews of, so many photographers, and you can find a read for this on New York Times, but it discusses, there's interviews being done, and photographers from all walks of life are describing moments where they wish they had a camera, or they had a camera and they have waited around for 12 hours for a photograph, didn't get the picture, start putting their equipment away, and then that picture was taken. They describe how that feels to not be able to use their camera, but also to appreciate the fact that they were there. It's super rewarding, and this is a book that, I'll read before bed. It's one of the ones that I'll before I go out on the street, because the reads are only a page and a half at best. In this book, that's like, 7 or 8 paragraphs. It's just one of those things where it humanizes everything, and it tells you it's okay to make mistakes. And once you understand it's okay to make mistakes, you'll be better at your craft. You can also go to Barnes and Noble and get like a lot of these things. But one of the books that I love buying, is $25 a copy. It's not an import, but it's for a nonprofit. It's Aperture. So Aperture magazine, and a lot of photographers that have been, I got this thing popping up. A lot of photographers that have some, university background or whatever, they're familiar with Aperture. But for everyone else, if you want to get your hands on various types of content, and it's not, digital photography magazine or whatever, go to Aperture. Photo essays galore. You get this nice size book. It's $25, but the content is worth it. The picture quality is dope. And you can study from books like this. I mean, I don't have too many of them like within reach, but Aperture is probably one of the best investments I've never spent over $100 on a book. I try to avoid that. I do have some that are valued at far higher than that, because I was a sharpshooter when I was searching for them. But you don't have to spend like incredible amounts of money to acquire these things. You know, I just showed you 2 books that collectively are $30. You got an Amazon Prime membership, you get it shipped to you for free, just paying the taxes. And those books have rewards. Or you can go to Barnes and Noble. You can pick up Aperture.org's book, Aperture Magazine, or you can check for is GUP is the Guide to Unique Photography. Smaller, it's $20. It's an import, but it's still dope. It's photo essays. It's, you know, famous photographers. It's everything. This is the equivalent of like Wax Poetics magazine. If you guys are familiar with Wax Poetics, this is like the equivalent to that, where it's just in-depth stuff. There's no camera reviews. There's no gear talk, you know, unless the photographer's like, yo, this is why I use this. It's just straight to the point, and it's the stuff that we need. It's the nutrients that we need, instead of, you know, suffering from gear acquisition syndrome. You know, there's other entities for that. If you want something that's gonna give you substance, especially when you feel like you don't know what your next step is with photography, go for those type of reads. You don't have to, again, spend $100 on a book, but minor investments go a long way. Even if you hang out on Aperture's website, or you go on the photo journal, you just see things. And those things are inspirations to me, even if it's like, I'm not the best person when it comes to judging landscape photographs. Like I like them, but I don't have like a thirst to understand landscape photography. I do enjoy seeing chaos. When I say chaos, it's the weather, you know, so snow outside, you know, hail, all those things. I love it. I love seeing how nature responds to it, defends itself towards it. But I buy some photo books that contain those things, that contain landscape, that contain found objects, because I want to understand eventually. And the only way for me to understand is to invest in it. And I suggest you guys do the same thing. Not everything I have behind me is all street photography. I've got a couple new books. I hate them. I'm not a noob. Just don't understand it. Human body is dope. I'm not saying that it's not. I don't. New photography is boring. Sorry if there's anyone that does new photography in the group. I'm sorry. It's just boring to me. But I'll show some other photographs. If I did anything like close to new photography, it'd probably be like, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. I'll just watch you guys do it if anyone else ever does that in this group. I'll appreciate it from your eyes. Well, let me try sharing some more. All right, let's see if this works. All right, let me go back to Dropbox. So again, I'm one of those guys that takes a camera everywhere, and I apologize if this makes anybody uncomfortable, but this here is a shot of my uncle. My mom comes from a family of 8, and I hadn't seen my uncle Mike in years, unfortunately. Different things with life kind of interfered for both of us, and this was down in Greenwood, Mississippi, and this is the first and last time that I saw him, you know, in a physical. So I take my camera everywhere again, you know, regardless if it makes people feel weird. I take it to a grocery store, and I take it to a funeral home. And, you know, I had to take a picture of my Uncle Mike, you know, rest in peace. But, you know, you just have to always, in my eyes, you have to be prepared for things, because you just never know what the situation will be for yourself. The same thing goes with this picture, which was one of my closest friends passed away. That's his son touching the casket. And it's just those moments, again, I don't want anyone to be forgotten. So I really do like push past that discomfort of having my camera somewhere, and I try to make the photographs that I can make. So I also think about things, people I encounter on the street. I wonder if these two are still together. This was 2018. Again, some pictures I just kind of make in passing. I didn't get too much from them. I can't remember any names or anything like that, but it was super hot that day. Again, I just wonder how people are, if that relationship fell apart right after this picture, or if it was, they're still together and one day they'll see it together. I just never know. Again, these cats were cool, man. They were just hanging out. But this dude was smoking a joint. I don't know if you guys can tell. This was out in the open. This was before like downtown Toledo had the open can, law in place. The fun part about hanging out on the street with cats, man, that other folks would deem low life or whatever, you just have like these like wild experiences with them. We at the bus stop, this dude is getting wasted, smoking weed out in the open, and we were just chilling, just hanging out. He just talking random stuff. I was looking for a friend named Tommy who I met out there a few weeks ago. Tommy was sharing with me how his life was changing and he was waiting for this money. And part of me is like, I he's telling a lie or it's for real. And like, because we have been talking, prior times, I believed him. I believed that this dude finally got like the help he needed. So I was looking for Tommy and came across this cat, and this dude was just having the time of his life, man. All right, this was probably one of the best days that I had, just hanging out at the bus stop, because no fights happened, nothing like wow. It was just getting drunk and high, sitting out there. I wasn't getting wasted with them. I was perfectly sober. I really don't mess around when I have my camera in my hand, but I just think it's funny, that, some people, they don't care if the law came and said something about it. They just do it. And that's how I feel about photography. I don't care if somebody gets offended. I'm going to just do it. The repercussions will come afterwards. I have to respect that. And they do too. Let me see here. Oh, it's about that time for questions. Let's see. All right. It's almost 8:15. I figure I dipped out a couple minutes early. We want to open the floor for any questions then? Wait, let me open up the chats.
Yeah, it looks like we got a few coming in the chat here, James, if you just want to pick and choose as they come in. I think there's one a little bit back to asking if you process your own film.
Oh, yes, I process everything. Really quick, just to get like the film questions out of the way. I process black and white, I process color. It's much easier than everyone thinks. It just takes discipline. I gave up movies, I gave up, social life, all of these things to teach myself to develop, whatever, just to understand photography. I print, I do all those things, but the only way I was able to advance is by trial and error. I shot a lot of dumb photographs. I overexposed. I did like a number of different things that people would kill themselves over with the camera. But that was only for me to understand what I can do with the camera. If anybody wanted to get into film photography, I would tell them straight up, shoot cheap film. You go out there and you buy Portrait 400, Portrait 800, because you saw online that somebody's using that, and then you find out it's damn near $9 a roll. You got to go get it processed for, another $13, $14. You become discouraged really easily, and then you don't allow yourself to understand that film, because you made such a huge investment in it. So I tell folks all the time to shoot cheap film. I only shoot like 3 film stocks, and the majority is HP5. I shoot Delta 3200, and prior to Fuji canceling Pro 400H, that was my go-to. Now it'll probably be Portrait 160 when it comes to color film. And I print color photographs using a digital printer. But what is that? You do some intro course on, I don't understand that last question. What is a DW? An intro course on developing. I'm sorry. I can always discuss that with people. I have, again, I made a ton of mistakes. So I you can inbox me. I thought about putting a video together, but it's if I had like a Toledo creative help me put up a video together, I'll do that.
We got a lot of folks here that would definitely help you out, man.
Yeah, man, we have to do that, because that's probably the one thing that's holding me back. But let's see what else. It sounds like your photograph with digital. What changes did you notice when you started with the Rolly? Oh, I stopped thinking about my settings, man. I still have a Fuji X Pro 1. I was like always out there trying to test the film simulator, and I thought about the response to that in terms of color reproduction, and I found myself thinking more about that versus the content, the composition, and I hated myself for it because I was more concerned with the way the settings were set up with the camera versus what I was using the camera for. So the moment I threw that thing away, I was like, and got back, because I started off with film, went to digital, because film at that time, I didn't know how to process it on my own. Digital seemed like the way to go. And it was just incredibly short-lived. It was super short-lived. I probably shot steadily with the digital camera for maybe a year, if that. I feel like it was maybe 10 months. But even when I went back to film and started the process of teaching myself to understand it better, I would kind of go back and forth. Shout out to John Eichels. He gave me my first paid job, put to Toledo.com. I used a digital camera for that. And, after that, I kind of put it down. But, the digital was cool. I'm a Fuji fan, period. If I did go back to digital, it'd be the X100V. I love fixed lenses. I like getting close to people. I don't want to use a zoom lens to accomplish that. So if I can get stupid close to folks, into their personal space, I'm definitely going to do it with that camera versus anything else. Do you see the same people when you go out every other day? Do you build relationships, or usually go somewhere different every other day? I go different places. I walk out of my house, I'll go north, south, east, west. Sometimes I see the same folks. Sometimes I don't. When I go into like downtown Toledo, yeah, it's more consistent. But I've only had a few experiences where I've gone into a different neighborhood and somebody I met in another neighborhood was in that neighborhood. And that allows me to have like a better response, because I just had this cool interaction with this cat. Maybe the week prior, I could show them the photograph that I made of them if I developed it. And then I can get a photograph of the person that they're hanging out with. So it's in terms of networking, just those conversations on this, it's networking, man. And I'm not I hate the term networking, dude. I lose at that. You put me in a room full of people who can get you, into higher places. And I'm like, I got to go chill with the wait staff. I don't care for names, but I love when I go out into the street and things like that happen. It's very cool. But these times where many people are wearing masks, do cover faces and expressions frustrate you, or does it make for more dramatic photos? It depends. If I can like photograph someone's discomfort, or if I can photograph like their means of survival. So if I'm in a grocery store and I have my camera and they have their mask and everything on, and I see like they're buying like survival, meals, rice, beans, things of that nature, and the picture itself says this person's preparing, I wouldn't mind that picture. But like, I know personally that people are still adjusting to wearing masks, and I never want them to feel uncomfortable for wearing it, or that I'm out here. It's one thing for me to sell myself as an advocate for mask wearing. I always have a mask on. I wear it at work. Even when I, shared a drink with someone over the summer, I still had a mask on. I just pulled it off. I was still like leaving the door open for COVID, but that's just what it was. So I don't think it's awkward, but like I tried to photograph a guy who was wearing like a full face mask at a gas station, and he like, no, dude, no. He got mad at it. And I was like, all right, that's cool, man. And I could have still took the photograph, but part of me wanted to talk to him about why he felt the need to wear like a full like gas mask. And he had like a brown, like old, like I think it was a Buick Celebrity or whatever. Like there were some things about him that were just like, this character is interesting. And so I wanted a little bit more from him, which is why I asked. Otherwise, I could have just took his picture. And I think that it would have said some things as well. So I'm not like uncomfortable with what I see when it comes to mask wearing. I am alarmed when I see a number of people not wearing masks, because I think you're just asking for it. That part bothers me, but well enough that I probably won't mingle with that crowd too often. But we go to the next one. Can you speak on thoughts you may or may not have with the street photographs that include you? It's also part of the subject, reflections. Do you actively try to hide yourself or welcome the integration of your essence? So I'm a big guy. I'm pushing 6'4". I try to be as invisible as I can. It sucks being a target. I'm sorry. It sucks. So like I'm always gonna be somebody notices on the street. And like when I have my camera and I'm out there, like part of me is like trying to find satisfaction in not being noticed, and making the people that I do photograph like the center of my attention, and putting the spotlight on them. If I end up in the photograph, I just kind of end up in it. Actually, I think that's like, it's cool. And sometimes, like I showed those pictures of those two kids. If you look hard enough in that photograph, you'll see my reflection in it. But I do try to hide myself as best as possible. It's just that, I've got that complex now after the police incident, because that's not the first time the police have ever messed with me. I've had some nasty experiences in Toledo, and it's all based on my size. So if I'm gonna take an opportunity to feel anonymity somewhere, it'll be on the street. In your story about the man in Wendy's, you said you had no intention of taking his photo until you heard his story. Do you prefer candid photography or making that connection first? It's a little bit of both. I used to want to just focus on candid work when I was, first started focusing on the street in Toledo. But then I found that just isn't as successful as it could be. It's easier to form relationships with people in passing. It's much easier, and it's, again, Toledo not being like a big city allowed me to appreciate stories more. And even like my job, some libraries have so much foot traffic that you can't learn people. You're just helping them get their books or whatever. And then, you have libraries like the one that I work at where you can form relationships with the people in the neighborhood. And I love that. I love learning. We know first names, kids, grandkids. We know a little bit about each other. Before the end of summer, there was a guy that I met a few times, took his picture a few times on the street. He used to do photography back in the day, but he kind of is a drunk right now. And like, it's usually me remembering people's stories, but this time he like remembered mine, and he like legitimately asked like how things were. And I was like blown back because I'm not used to people asking me how I'm doing like that. If I had any complaint about life right now, is that people don't. Like, I just don't get that. I don't receive that. Like, no one says, yo, how are you? What's up with you? Like, I just don't get it. So that was like a shock where someone was like, yo, man, like, how's this going? Or how's that going? And, it was super genuine, and I love that. So that was my man, Will Shoulders. And, it was cool, but I did prefer candid work. I still love candid work. But I mean, the relationships I form in Toledo with people on the street, I think are solid, I saw Will, like, after I had last talked to him, I saw him taking a leak against a building like at 1 p.m. And I'm like, it's Will. He's peeing on a building right now. I'm just gonna let him be. But you just gotta love that, You just have to love it. Let me see. Is there any other questions you may come like myself? All right, was there any other questions? I'm trying to go through.
I think you kind of covered all the bases.
All right, cool. Well, if there isn't anything else, man, I mean, we could wrap it up.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Clapping.
Yeah.
Thank you, James.
Yeah,
thanks for all the stories. Thanks for sharing some of your work, and thanks for the recommendations. By the way, I actually did end up buying a copy of that book, and it is very good. I would highly recommend.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks for everybody that did come out to check this out, and thanks you guys again for having me, man. I look forward to the next session.
Awesome.
Really started with a bang here. This was like such good attendance. Awesome stories shared tonight. Seems like everybody was really like invested in it.
And I just wanted to say too, like, especially since this is such of like a heavy piece of you, James, like, thank you for being so like vulnerable with us tonight, man. Like, that was really, really inspiring. And we're really, really grateful. I think this was just an awesome night, and we really appreciate it.
For sure.
Yeah, thanks, Evan, man. Appreciate you guys.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes, we are recording this, and we will put it on YouTube eventually. To answer your question, Marissa.
That'd be sweet. I'd love to share it, on my platforms as well. So, yeah, this was cool. This is very cool.
Cool. Good first workshop. We have another one coming up in 2 weeks with Diana, who is
here
in the audience today. Wedding photography. So looking forward to that. We're going to send some follow-up emails in about a week with some links for recommendations that James gave, and anything else that he might want to share. Again, everybody, thanks for joining. This was great. We hope to do more in the future. We'll keep you posted.
And if you feel like you need feedback,
yes, tell us what we can do better.
Yeah.
Besides learning how to share screens.
True.
Right, man. That was funny.
That was awesome.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Appreciate you all.
On that note, we're going to close it up. Thank you all again. Peace.
Have a great night. Mic drop.
Peace. All right. Bye.